What was the most petty reason someone held a grudge against you? My niece was nervous about her driver's test, so I told her not to worry her mom. My sister is a really good driver and she failed her first driver's test. If you mess up, just study, practice and try again. My sister still doesn't talk to me after 3 years because I embarrassed her in front of her daughter. You embarrassed her by just stating a fact. Okay then XD. About 4 years ago my sister's mindset changed and suddenly stories about our childhood became lies and attacks rather than just funny anecdotes. She lost touch with objective reality. She could tell stories about others from her perspective, but the same story from anyone else's point of view was bullshit. I hope someday she remembers that her mother, brother and cousins love her and aren't trying to slander her by recounting tales of our childhood from our point of view. My husband lost his job a few years ago around Christmas time. I told people that we wouldn't be buying anyone gifts that year, including my brother who lives in a different state. About a week before Christmas, someone anonymously left some groceries and a Visa gift card on our doorstep. Because of that, I was actually able to do a little gift shopping for my young kids and made a Facebook post about it, in hopes that whoever had donated to us would see how grateful we were for their gift and let them know that thanks to them, my kids were able to have a small Christmas with a few gifts. My brother was so hurt that I didn't buy gifts for him and his family that he blocked me from Facebook and basically stopped talking to me. Until he sent me an email 2 years later with a screenshot of my Facebook post and yelled at me for not buying him gifts. Needless to say, we don't have a relationship and I've cut him out of my life completely. Geez, for most of my adult life I have not had money to give gifts and neither have my siblings. Some years I'm able to give a small gift. None of the kids from my generation give gifts to each other since we are all broke. My sister refused to speak to our family because we asked her to house train her dog before bringing it to our houses. We were sick of finding pee and poop. Seemed reasonable. I'd call her to come clean it whenever I found it. 12 AM, 3 AM, 5 AM. Not my problem. Get in your car and come scrub my carpet. I promise you it would end real quick. A best female friend growing up, male, didn't talk to me for a week in high school because I called her a bitch in a dream. This reminds me of someone I was friends with who had a dream I slept with his GF. He didn't speak to me for ages. Even though he didn't have a GF at the time. He wasn't a close friend, so I wasn't asked at all. Mutual friend said, Jake, fake name, has told me that the dream was so real he just couldn't look at you. Even though he hasn't got a GF. Yeah right. Mutual friend said, why don't I apologize? Told her no, I'm not apologizing for his dream. TBH, he was no great loss. I'm sorry. It was a one-time thing. I was very drunk and it was someone else's subconscious. Apostrophe. My first wife held a grudge because I forgave her for cheating on me. It bothered her so much that she decided to get back at me by cheating again. And when I didn't throw a tantrum and throw her shit on the lawn, she went out and did it again. She cheated so much that she didn't even realize I'd stopped having sex with her a year and a half before the divorce came through until I'd pointed it out. Good times. Edit. I'm not being bitter, by the way. This is literally what she told me her reasoning was. I wasn't violent to her when I found out and it made her feel like a shit person. And she blamed me for that feeling. That's some mental gymnastics. That's someone who's been abused and thinks violent jealousy is a sign of love. I talked about our mutually liked celebrity like a real person and not an infallible being. Told a school friend that I thought our other friend was being two-faced. We were 14 at the time. Friend absolutely flipped out and I apologized for the sake of our friendship. She held a vendetta until we graduated, 4-ish years. She would scream at me in the school corridors and had to be banned from my form room because she'd come in and try to attack me. 2 years in I asked if we could just be friends again, but she called me a CT in front of our mutual friendship group. We patched it up temporarily when we were 18, but once she got a boyfriend she went loco again. Started attacking me at house parties and poured beer over me a few times. The other friend I'd called to face didn't even care I'd called her that. She actually agreed and apologized for her 14-year-old behavior. If you're out there you're the king insane and I hope you get therapy. Problem is, most people like that see absolutely nothing wrong with their behavior. This is the epitome of, I peaked in high school. My wife is still angry with me over a dream she had years ago in which I cheated on her with a faceless woman. Seriously, she's lucky you only dream cheated. I've had repeated dreams where my husband dream murders me. Dream him is on thin ice. Ha ha ha. You better dream with one eye open. She hated me because of a shitty story that she made up. That's the next level of ducking petty. Wow. That's a special kinda stupid. Sounds like a relative of mine. But it's more than one made up story. I once mentioned that if a job position opened up at the job I was working I might apply. One of my coworkers overheard and held a grudge because she wanted the position. What was even stupider is the position never ended up opening and I ended up deciding to leave the job later that year and she still held the grudge. I met a guy when I was still in university that was mad at me for taking the train to go home. He wanted me to wait for him just so I could go with him at the train station. And he even wanted me to miss my train just so he could be with me at the train station. Bro, I just wanna go home at 8 PM, not at 3 AM. Mind you, he doesn't take the train because he had an apartment not too far away from the university, so it's not like he had to wait for me because he was at home when he yelled at me for that. I'm so glad I flipped him off. Seemed kind of toxic. Choo choo. All aboard the douche train. After an amazing first day of a school rotation, I said to the professor basically, thanks, this has been a really interesting day. The creep thought I was being sarcastic and over the next 2 weeks laid in wait to try to wash me out of grad school in the last day of the rotation. Other teachers told me he was going through a bad divorce and hated everyone and confronted him in my defense. To this day, if anything comes up regarding that topic my blood pressure spikes. My experience with academics is that they are either super cool or have massive egos with not a lot of in between. Someone I knew got mad at me because she thought that I tried to prank her by putting Cards Against Humanity cards in her backpack. Even though we were playing it the night before and they probably just fell in. And despite the fact that that would be a horrible prank. Him trying to figure out how that's a prank. What could possibly be the funny payout? Her parents get mad at her for having a raunchy game and she gets grounded. She finds it there a day later and collapses with laughter. What did she think the end game was? I mean, we were in college living at school, so her parents would never have known. So I don't know why she thought I was pranking her. A coworker when we both were teenagers. He was really into cars. Had a huge lifted pickup truck. I drove a 12-year-old Prius. I know Prius owners can be annoying, but in my case I literally never talk about it, and I don't think it makes me better than anyone else. He only knew because it's the first thing he asked me when we met. After that he would go out of his way to find videos of Priuses in crashes and show them to me, or make random little comments about how he would never drive a Prius. I thought it was just like an attempt at joking banter at first, but it never let up. I write backwards and upside down. Example, start my 2's on the bottom right. I had a teacher who thought I was mocking them when I wrote on the board that way in grade 5. I seriously had enough problems, I didn't need that weird shit to worry about in the classroom. Had a teacher in my school, did not teach my class, that wanted all her students to write their zeros in a particular manner. Clockwise or anti-clockwise, I forgot. I've always wondered what the hell was wrong with her. I didn't invite her to a birthday party. I didn't know her. She wasn't my friend, and she threatened to stab me. Now I'm blocked from all of her social media. It has been years. I was 13. She sounds like one of those girls who want to be invited to everything, even if they know nobody there, like she just wants to be invited, just so she can be seen as popular. Nobody really liked her, because she was known to physically hurt people and tell lies. She called the police on people she falsely accused of cyberbullying her. There are tons of other stories I could tell about her, but in the aftermath of her threatening to stab me, I tried to be compassionate, because I'm a walking doormat. Then she started trying to play the victim card and talking about how she wanted to hurt people. In early senior year, I bumped into a guy from high school at the beach. We exchanged numbers and talked for a week on the phone. He would pick me up and bring me over to his house and watch movies. Then we hung at my house a few times. At breaks I would hang with him and his friends. Well, one day in P.E., my friend said that some girl was jealous of me. I had zero clue who she was. Turns out it was his ex-GF. I never knew he dated anyone or what his past was. Well, he just straight up started to ignore me, aka ghosting me. I just stopped trying to talk to him. Turns out she was going to have a fight me with because of him. Which later I found out they got back together, and now after 19 years later are married and have a baby. So I don't now wish she was tripping lol. Dumb. All. Dumb. A girl threw a bowling ball at me because she couldn't spell my name. Can you please elaborate? There's gotta be more to this than just not being able to spell your name. Not necessarily. Point of this thread is people do frequently do crazy irrational things. I'd just come out of a long-term relationship in a pretty nasty way and wasn't doing so great. My now ex-friend split up with her boyfriend of 7 years to try and get with me now I was single. I was so cut up about my own breakup that I didn't notice her hints at all. I was not thinking about a new relationship in the slightest. After about a month she got back with her boyfriend and cold-shouldered me for months afterwards until I broke off the friendship. There were a lot of other problems leading up to that, but the catalyst was literally that I didn't leap right into bed with her after a terrible breakup. Even if I hadn't felt that bad, I still wouldn't have done it. I felt awful for her boyfriend when I realized what had happened. Even though he'd held a grudge against me like his girlfriend's shitty treatment of him had been my fault. I didn't buy a wedding gift. A friend's new husband was mad at me for a long time without telling me. BC I couldn't afford a wedding gift. I was in the wedding party and it was out of town. The week prior I dropped $1,400 on my car because parts needed replacing. Not to mention the bridesmaid dress, the hotel, the gas to get there. I had almost $0 in the bank. Should have bought her some Vienna sausages from the dollar store and given them to her unwrapped with a bow made out of yarn or some other material you had lying around the house. It may not be much, but it's honest work. I'm better than them at foam sword fighting. They held on to that grudge for years. How about meat swords? I don't have one of those. My factory settings came with an extra pocket instead. Not sure, because I was smarter than them. They had this idea in their head that they were super smart due to studying hard and getting good grades to feel good about themselves. I did not. I'm not dumb. I just never applied myself. They also seemed to have the idea that our friendship was like a cartoon or something where he's the smart one and I'm the dumb one who just follows. Well, this ideal didn't quite fit most of the time, and it made them very angry, to the point of basically faking friendship and starting arguments drama even 10 years later because of stuff that pissed them off in high school. I cut that friend out of my life. I don't care for drama, especially when it's that pointless. High school tends to be your defining year. I'm in high school right now so I can't really comment, but I saw Cobra K and Daniel kept bringing up stuff from over 10 years ago. Not really a grudge, but hard feelings. I was at prom at another school with my then boyfriend. I was hanging out with his friends and having a good time. He was a band nerd and of course had some friends that were girls. One of the girls asked me to take a few pictures of her and my BF together, but I noticed she was going around to all of her friends and getting individual photos with them. So I thought nothing of it. I took like 5 shots hoping to give her some options, then gave her camera back. It was a cheap digital camera. Well, a few months later my boyfriend told me the girl was upset about me being jealous of her wanting to take a picture with him, so I didn't take the photos. I was shocked she thought that of me. I'm not a jealous person to begin with, and the camera's flash went off for each photo I thought I took. When I asked if he remembers the flashes, he did and said I must not have held the button long enough. Probably so, but it definitely wasn't intentional. I just didn't know how to work her camera. They thought they heard me and 2 other people say their name and then laugh in some random conversation, and then decided in their head not only were we making fun of this person, But we, again in their head, had been doing this for a long time. Pretty sure all of this was an overactive imagination, since we and this person in question were never close, just acquaintances, and there would be no reason for us to talk about them for anything, let alone making fun. One day I smoked too much weed and was hanging out with two friends, one very close and one close to him. The music was a little loud, so I couldn't hear their conversation even in the same room. They were just chit-chatting and laughing like we always do after some joint, but I was outside of the conversation, and I was really sure they were talking shit about me. But I came to my sense before saying anything stupid and even talked about it with them later. Everybody laughed, but for some time I felt the same as this person in your history. They said you are my last candy bar. Now I'm gonna starve. They in fact ate their own. I think you'll eat it now. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.